It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job. My name is Mike. That's Brian.
Yo.
Episode 83. I almost said 38 because I'm a little bit dyslexic, but 83 today. Our guest today visiting via phone from the East Coast is Joe Reardon.
What's up, Joe?
VP of Sales
guys, how's it going?
Yeah, no. Let me.
Sorry,
finish
I'm cutting Mike off here. Yeah,
Brian jumped in a little bit. Joe Reardon, VP of Sales, Blastrac Diamatic. How you doing, Joe?
Great. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time here to join us. Not the typical guests. We typically are looking at the trade contractors, but being in the industry, I love to kind of hear how you guys help and what you guys do. So if you could, to kind of get started here, give us a little backstory, a little history on how you got started in this industry and the road to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. I first of all appreciate the time today. I actually started as a contractor in the field probably 22, 23 years ago, actually driving around the state of Florida in a non-air conditioned truck, going around and prepping and installing concrete floors and epoxies and things like that, and have gradually worked up through the industry. I've worked for a couple of the major manufacturers in the surface prep industry, and have ended up here at Blastrac Diamatic for the last 8 years now, heading up the sales team. Awesome.
So where was the transition from contractor to the manufacturer distributor side?
It was, early on, kind of was gravitating towards that manufacturing side. I think in our industry, there's a lot of great contractors that are out there, but really in the support role and, really listening to the contractors that are out doing the work all the time, I felt moving over to the manufacturing side and kind of taking that ear from what the contractors are dealing with and looking at and kind of trying to work more practicality on the manufacturing side to be able to provide those needs and machines and things like that. So I would say within, contracting about 5 or 6 years, and then kind of gradually moved into the manufacturing side.
Yeah. And was there any kind of advantage to having, been out in the field yourself? Did you see yourself having, different insight, I would assume?
Yeah, definitely being out in the field and doing the project, really, as I moved into the manufacturing side, allowed me to understand really what the contractors are going through. And when you're on a phone call or nowadays a Zoom call or whatever,
right.
Kind of understanding that side of it. A lot of times contractors get thrown under the bus. You're doing it wrong, or you did this not the right way, but really understanding that, what they're running into is a legit and serious scenario, and trying to be able to adapt that onto the manufacturing side.
Yeah, very cool. So, before we get a little too much further, let's maybe go into a little bit more detail as to what you guys do, the service you guys provide, and the products.
Yeah, so we're a global manufacturer of surface prep equipment, and we work with a lot of our distributors throughout the country, and we provide on-site support, technical support, inside sales support. But what we really try and do is, for us, service is king, and we really pride ourselves. We're not always perfect. We never preach to be perfect, but we really pride ourselves for being on job sites and understanding, how that relates to the contractors and what they need, especially when it comes to scheduling and working on job sites and getting finished on job sites. We really try and provide that service through not only on-site, but we also hold multiple classes throughout the country, just detailing not only our machines and what we can do, but really working with contractors, which I think is something that's lacked nowadays, is working with contractors on the actual project. So sitting down and starting from A and getting to Z. And what are the pitfalls they're going to run into, staging equipment out, and kind of thinking ahead. That's kind of the strategy that we bring to the marketplace.
So you're more than just providing equipment, right? It sounds like you guys are involved in the project as well.
We are. I mean, we have a division that works, like I said, from A to Z. So we can work with the beginning during the specifications. We can work with people on trying to figure out what costing is going to be. We provide on-site support, and we also provide detailed reporting. So we try and what I call bring it full circle. It's great to sell a machine as a manufacturer or a piece of equipment, but for us, it doesn't stop there. We want to be involved. We want to work with these people. A lot of them, we get to know their family members. We get to know their employees all the way down, to the guy sweeping the warehouse. But it becomes full circle that way. That way you can get the most support for these guys that are out in the field doing it day in and day out.
Is this part of the purchase in terms of buying the equipment that the service package comes with? Are they purchasing this separately in addition to the equipment? Like if you're purchasing a vehicle, how does that roll?
That's a great question. So every piece of equipment that we buy, even if we have a contractor that's familiar with it, we offer free of service a startup on that piece of equipment. We like to get in and train employees. We also do it on job sites also. So it's part of the package that we bring. It's not an additional fee or anything else like that.
That's cool.
Is that, obviously we sit in an office and we just get to talk to contractors every once in a while and maybe get to a job site a couple times a year. But we're not obviously, in depth to this level with most of these businesses or these contractors that we're talking to. So maybe if you could kind of elaborate, is this a normal service for maybe something like your competitors, or is this something you guys do, above and beyond that you feel is beyond what your competitors do? And if so, what was that deliberate decision-making process like to provide something like that?
I think as our industry has grown, and you've had some great contractors on your show, and we work with a lot of them. I think as the industry has grown up throughout the years, a lot of manufacturers like ourselves do provide that same type of support. So on-site training, on-site setup, and things like that. I think where we go in a different direction is we can sit with the same contractors that have even our competitors' machines, and we work with them on a different level where we've got a lot of people that are within our company that sit on a lot of the governing boards or have actually been ex-contractors themselves. And we try and work with clients. Sometimes it's job specific, but a lot of times, majority of our calls during the day are, hey, I've got a project coming up. I'd really love to run some numbers by you. I'd really like to understand what I'm kind of missing. And I think that's something we do a little differently than anybody else that's in the marketplace. And I think it provides, it bridges that gap where you just become a sales company to where you really become a support arm for the contractors that are out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what is your role specifically within the company? And I mean, where did you enter with this company and what are you doing now?
So I entered just as a salesperson about 8 years ago, just traveling around making calls, and progressively worked my way up through the ranks, became national sales manager, and then recently, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, became VP of sales for both sides of the company. We've got a fairly good arm of distributors and things like that I work with day in and day out. So my days consist of waking up in different hotels from day to days and different weeks. So you guys caught me on the East Coast, but next week I'll actually be on the West Coast.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, because I think when we were talking beforehand, you said you guys have an office in Anaheim. Is that right?
We do, yeah. We have an office in Anaheim, and then we've got distributors throughout the West Coast that we work with and support and things like that also. So we have a very good presence on the West Coast. So
what is done out of your Anaheim office? Just because
we do everything.
So, yeah, let me. I guess I should probably give a little context to that question. So most of our listeners and even guests are California related, right? So, so maybe kind of go through exactly what you guys do out of the Anaheim office and how it might help some of our listeners.
Yeah, so we do all different types of things out of Anaheim, and I guess I'll get a little bit more specific on that. We do sales, service, and rentals out of that office. We support our distributors on the West Coast out of that office. So we've got fully stocking facility to be able to ship to our distributors, support them, support our customers. We find that by having strategic locations in the United States, and Anaheim's one of our biggest one, it's always, our industry is always a last minute. Guys aren't, sometimes they're pulled in so many directions that you guys have probably heard that they're forgetting this or forgetting that. So we try and pride ourselves on stocking what everybody is going to need. And that way, you kind of support the contractor. I won't say that we have everything all the time. Everybody wants to have the Amazon effect, if you will, but we try and pride ourselves in having.
You guys don't have any sort of Prime Now delivery special?
No, well, you would think sometimes we do, but it's funny how that's kind of worked itself out that way.
Yeah, everybody kind of expects you to. They can get everything else on demand. Why can't they get their piece of equipment, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Why can't I have it in an hour? What do you mean? It's kind of been a challenge for sure.
So are you guys direct to any of the contractors, or is it 100% via distributors?
No, we've got our key accounts. But what we do is we work with our distributors, and in the beginning when we're talking with them and let them know who those are. But we definitely have some key accounts that we sell direct to and support. In a lot of cases, we kind of walk that fine line because, we do have a lot of distributors, and sometimes we won't have things that our distributors do. So it's kind of an ebb and flow with them, right, when it comes to things. But yeah, we do like to take care of certain contractors direct.
So if a contractor does happen to go through a distributor to get something, they still are going direct to you for some of that support and some of those other things?
They are. I mean, we strictly sell, machines and vacuums and tools and stuff to get a project going. We like to partner up our guys with our distributors because while we're carrying 1 to 10, they're carrying everything else from, 10 to 100, or 11 to 100. So we try and partner with them to make sure that those ancillary products can be sourced.
Very cool. What has it been like for you guys through? It sounds like you're starting to travel again. What has it been like for the rest of the company through these last few months and all this questioning?
No, great question. I'm glad you guys brought that up. Fortunately for our industry, and we have friendly competitors out there, just like every industry has. We really have not slowed down at all. I would say we hit the pause button for probably 30 days. And then ever since then, we've been just running and supporting contractors. And, like I said, we've been blessed in our industry that we really just haven't had a slowdown. If anything, we've had a resurgence like we had business like 10 years ago. So it's actually, we've been blessed very well.
Wow.
Yeah, if you could actually speak to, maybe part of that has to do with the COVID, but in terms of specifically the team that you guys have and some of the restrictions that you guys are dealing with while out in the job site and how that's affecting you guys.
Yeah, that definitely is. Job sites now are harder to get on, harder to keep people on, let alone the fact of traveling nowadays, which I'm sure we've all seen what's going on in the news. But travel itself these days is hard, and you got to be a lot more thought out of your plan of attack when you're doing it. But with our team, we're lucky. We've got people kind of spread out all over the country. In a lot of cases, we've seen guys, instead of flying right now, we'll do a lot of driving. So our guys will head out and hit the road. And but it's not something that we have really pushed very much. And I think as the industry has moved around a little bit, I mean, things like, Zoom and FaceTime and things like that have really helped expand our presence in the industry and on the support side. I think that's happened for everybody in the industry.
Yeah, no, for sure. Everybody's getting a little bit more friendly with technology and kind of being forced down that road a little bit faster and maybe a little bit sooner than they wanted to be.
I think it's really helped on, support for the contractors and the people that listen, to your show. Is that before, when someone, let's, for instance, you guys are calling, from the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast, it would be, okay, let me try and get a flight tomorrow morning and I'll be there in a day or so. It's okay, let's set up a Zoom call. I can be on the job site. I think we've really, once again, kind of taken that step as an industry of we can have access to job sites and people and stuff like that immediately instead of having to wait.
Being a little bit more comfortable with doing that kind of stuff. I mean, before this, I feel like if somebody said, no, I'm not going to jump on a plane, why don't you just get me on a FaceTime call and I'll walk through the job site with you? They kind of would have looked at you like, you lazy piece of crap. Like, get your ass out here. Right. But now it's almost, now it's almost like, well, this is what we got to do. So even when you can travel, it's like, oh, don't worry about it. Let me just do this for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's worked out really well. And I think, a lot of times our industry is one that's extremely face-to-face relationships, handshake deals.
Old school and antiquated. Yep.
It's old school. And I think the contractors that listen to this understand that. But now it's, when you can hop on a Zoom call for 10 minutes instead of hopping on a plane for 6 hours, I mean, you can still get those results for sure.
Yeah, definitely changing the industry for sure. Kind of on that and kind of, what we're pushing and the space that we're in, are there things that you guys do or trends that you've seen from a digital side, from a marketing standpoint that are changing or adapting, developing?
I think if anything, that COVID has done is it's made, not only ourselves, but a lot of the people we deal with kind of sharpen our tools as far as content that we're putting out there on the social platform. And I think we're starting to see where we're doing tons and tons of Zoom calls for training seminars and things like that. But I think what it has made us do from a marketing standpoint is really understand what we're putting out instead of, here's a bunch of flyers and here's a bunch of information to put it out. I think the content, we really drill down on, okay, what is the message we're sending? What is the contractor going to take out of this? And how is it going to affect and support on that side? So I think it's really kind of made us all sharpen our pencils. Be
a little bit more deliberate about some of the things that you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think guys' time nowadays is very, very short. And I think when we try and deliver a message, it needs to be direct, straightforward. As you guys know, people click on things for a minute or two or 2.5 minutes and they're gone. So we're trying to hit little snippets that actually provide some content and some support.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's part of, that society too, where, people expect transparency and directness, just because, like you said, a lot of people just don't have the time to digest a lot of that information.
Yeah, and I think also kind of what you guys are talking about. I mean, I think now that there has been some slowdown in certain aspects. I mean, people are now able to kind of research and find some great things to get into. I mean, obviously podcasts and Zoom and things like that. So I think we've become more educated. And I think, people don't have time for the old BS anymore. It's, I need this and I need it fast. And if you can't do it, then, I'm going to move on to something else.
Yeah. Are there any trends that you guys are seeing, maybe specifically towards the West Coast or the California area, from a contracting standpoint? Anything that you guys are seeing from a job development or, specific types of jobs or labor, anything along those lines that you guys are having to adapt to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest issues we're having as an industry is the last one you hit on, which is labor. To find people right now it's extremely hard. We talked to a lot of customers and distributors, and the same saying goes for all of them. I've got plenty of equipment. I've got plenty of this widget. I have no one to run the widget. And our industry has always really struggled to find kind of that talent of people to do this stuff, because it is a craft. You really kind of have to know what you're doing on it. So That's always been something that's been hard. I think it's gotten a lot harder because, like I said, our industry, we really haven't slowed down. If anything, we've picked up as an industry. So guys are a lot more busy. Work is plentiful. Labor is very short. And the other stuff we're starting to see is a lot of, people are looking at, and I'm sure contractors in your audience is looking at the news where, retail is dying and these people are going out of business or going bankrupt. We're seeing a big push, especially on the West Coast, for second, third, and fourth generation buildings getting turned into, almost anything, if you will, any type of industry is moving into them. So we're seeing a lot of that revitalization, if you will, even in downtown areas and office buildings. I think we're seeing a lot of movement in that type of work, especially on the West Coast.
And so from a labor standpoint, are you guys, obviously you do training once, when you're working specifically with a contractor on a piece of equipment or something along those lines, but is there anything you guys are doing on a broader or more global basis as far as, education or trying to bring people into the industry, not necessarily specifically for, a certain contractor?
We are. I mean, one of the things that's unique to what we're doing is we've partnered with a couple trade schools, and we've partnered with a couple other industry associations that, work with people to get them into kind of this industry, or working more with your hands and less with your computers, which I know is backwards sometimes these days, but we do. We try and hold training classes at different universities. We'll try and hold classes at tradesman places in order to get guys kind of involved in what this is. It's a great industry to be in, but I will say one of the drawbacks, and your audience will probably understand this, is the travel. Sometimes that is wear and tear on a lot of guys, and we tend to find in our industry the younger guys, so young 20s to older 20s. But once they get beyond that area and they either get a girlfriend or they get a wife, the traveling aspects of it stop pretty quick. But we are, and I think our industry and the people that are in it, the other manufacturers, we're trying different avenues in order to get talent. But I think what we really try and do is get to our contractors or get to these trainings, even if it's one or two people that your audience contractors brings in. We try and get there and train them and bring them up to speed as fast as we can, because we know that that's just going to do nothing but support the contractor. So,
yeah.
But there's a couple different affiliations out there that we all kind of work with to try and help bring stuff into the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a lot like maybe it's probably not your main area of support, but a version of that support where you're providing a value source to your contractor, to your clients, so that way they can, because you're right. We've talked about this a lot, at least on the show, in terms of, the labor shortage and really the push. I mean, me growing up in the 80s, you had to go to a 4-year university, and, if you didn't, you were looked as less than. Even guys that were going to community college were less than, so much less those that were going right into the trades. In fact, I had a buddy I remember in high school that was going into the trades. He was a cabinet guy, and his dad was a contractor as well. And he just, he was the guy that fixed everything, even in high school, but you kind of thought like, oh, he's not really going anywhere. And now he's on top of the world. He owns his own business. He's killing it. And he's been doing that since he was a young guy. So, it's just, I think this thought process of like, you go to school, you incur $200,000 in student loans, and then go find a $40,000 job right out of school. Just, it seems crazy, but for whatever reason, we bought into that, thinking that everybody's going to be lawyers and doctors, and they're not. So
no, I agree. I mean, I think one of the things our industry, finding guys is a tough thing, but I like the path that you're going down. We have a lot of customers and people that I'm sure that listen to your show, where guys will start out in the field and overtime and travel and things like that. They're still getting paid for all that. They're getting per diem. They're getting hotel rooms paid for. And I mean, I could tell you there's just tons of people that have bought their first house out of this industry, have bought new cars. And I think people, like you said, I mean, they look down on the tradesmen and stuff like that. But I mean, we've got guys that have tremendous, lives and all kinds of stuff within this industry.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, I have one of my other best friends. He actually went to school because his dad made him. His dad was a contractor, and he's taken over the contracting business, and they're killing it as well. And he drives, he lives in a beautiful house that they're selling, $1.7 million home that they're selling. And he's buying a bigger house with a nicer car. I mean, if you're talking about all these different, and yes, when he was young, I mean, in his 20s, he was traveling quite a bit. But they've been able to kind of pivot in such a way that he's able to stay more local, and he's got kids and a wife and all that. So I think there's ways around that, and in fact, it's almost better for a lot of these guys that are coming up with this labor shortage individually, because the opportunity and the ability to make quite a bit of money quickly is there. But yeah, I hear you in terms of the supply and demand. We're at such a point now where you're probably going to get a product, well, not a product, but in terms of the labor is not going to be as good until it finally gets there. And I do feel like from what I'm seeing that people are becoming, and not just in construction, but I think people overall are saying, I went to a private school in LA, and it was very, very expensive. And so I was that guy with a huge amount of student loan debt that was coming into the workforce with not, a lot of high paying jobs available. And I think that where I went to school has already doubled in tuition. And so you're seeing a lot of these kids that are coming out and going like, well, with the inflation and with, living costs, at least here in California, and crazy student loan debt, why am I going to school? Why am there's no purpose for, I can go get a job. I can make six figures by the time I'm 20 in the trades and do very well for myself, and be at home, later on, at a decent hour, 3-4 in the afternoon, and it's just the opportunities seem to be more rewarding than they were, at least when we were kids, when you just looked at it thinking like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to be a blue collar guy. I don't want to be driving a dingy old truck. I want to be driving a nice car. Now these guys are driving nice cars. So go figure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're 100% correct. The industry, as with every other industry, a lot of guys nowadays want to, you hear, well, I want to be a gamer, or I want to do this, or I want to create a website. And I mean, that's great and all, but you're right. I mean, the guys that are the tradesmen that are out there, and speaking from our industry alone, I mean, like I said, these guys are buying houses and buying cars, and I mean, the ability to make a lot of money quick and, go see the United States. I mean, why not,
Yeah. Well, they have all the toys too. I'm a big NASCAR guy. I've got a trailer, and I go to all the festivals and all that stuff, and boats and hang out on the river. But 90% of those guys are all contractors too. Yeah. So they're the ones out having fun with all the toys too. So it's good for me, right? Because
correct.
I like to do all those things, and those are my clients. So it works out pretty nice. No, it's fun. So what does the future look like for you personally at where you're at, and maybe down the road for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, company-wise, we're stronger than ever and growing even during these times. I think the future for myself personally would be, my goal is always to end up overseas, over in Europe. So I have the ability to work on that with this global company, and I foresee myself kind of, working ourselves over there. At least that's what my wife tells me I need to do.
What's the driving factor for getting overseas?
Travel. I've traveled over there quite a bit on vacation and stuff, and just love it over there. Just an absolutely beautiful countries over there, and great people, and that's kind of where I think I'm going to end up at.
That's someday. Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all because of this industry, like I said.
Yeah, right. Yeah, giving you the opportunity.
It's good.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Joe, we appreciate your time. We'll let you get on with your day. If you could kind of let the people know where to find you, if you got social media or websites or phone numbers, emails, whatever.
Yeah, we'll put it up for sure. And I appreciate your guys' time. I think what you guys are doing is great. And I appreciate you guys accepting me to be on the show. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Have a good one.
You too, man. Bye.
Bye. Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.